Hey everyone, I'm KARMAAA, and today I'm presenting the top 10 teams for 2015 in regards to prize money for CSGO. I've compiled the list starting in descending order, complete with analysis and the outlook for the teams going into 2016. The whole list showing the top 12 teams listed in prize money will be at the end of the video. Number 1. Fnatic. With $850,000 and arguably being called the best CSGO team of all time, Fnatic have once again proven their dominance this year with an outstanding run. With 2 major victories, a record 17 tournament wins in a year, and the highest prize money by any margin, just goes to show that Fnatic really are the best team, and they really are the team to beat. Now, although they have replaced Pronax, their in-game leader, for the fragging power of Dennis, you can still expect this team to be the top team for 2016, as the team has maintained their top placings, winning 3 tournaments with the new man in the roster, albeit with a little less magic than what we're used to seeing. Tournament highlights for this year are ESL 1 Katowice, ESL 1 Cologne, and both ESL Pro League Season 1 and 2 finals. Envious, $542,000. This team is the team that stole the third quarter of the year and was, albeit for most of the year, always behind their rivals Fnatic. Now, Envious have proven they are at least a top 3 team in the world, if not top 2. And with one major under their belt, DreamHack Cluj-Napoca, some great series and overall great on-paper talent, you can expect their dominance within the scene to continue throughout 2016. However, in-game leading issues, communication issues, and internal stylistic problems have led to the team only winning 2 series against their rivals Fnatic, and only beating Fnatic in a final once to win an event, and that was Gfinity Champion of Champions. But you can still expect great things out of this team, especially when they're up against an opponent other than Fnatic, such as when they won DreamHack Cluj-Napoca against Na'Vi 2-0. To illustrate also the utter dominance and power of this team, time and time again, you can expect at least a top 4 finish from this team. In 2015, they had 23 top 4 finishes for events, and really, I mean, if you wanted to look at their power just in general, I have some really highlight events out there for them. Those would be, Gfinity Champion of Champions, ESL 1 Cologne, and DreamHack Cluj-Napoca. Especially these are the types of events that you should be looking at since Kenny S and Apex joined the roster. So yeah, you can expect really this team to be at least top 3 and remain as one of the very best rosters in 2016. virtus.pro, they have a rounded out $500,000 for this year, and the Poles are back in top 3 form, and are still one of the longest running rosters in CSGO behind NIP. 2015 was the year that allowed the experience really of Taz and Neo to give the stars of Byali and Snacks to shine so consistently throughout 2015. Although this team hasn't won any majors this year, they have won tournaments such as ESL ESEA Dubai, which hosts prize pools as large as the majors, and with the results of 7 tournament wins in the year and 25 top 4 finishes, they really can't complain. The roster has also shown they are one of the best teams on Train, Cobblestone and Mirage, with the majority of their contributed wins and their deep runs in tournaments being because of these maps. The huge issue, however, with this team is that unfortunately, sometimes they need 3 or more players to really perform in order for them to truly win a tournament against the likes of Fnatic, Envious, and TQM/?/XTSM. But make no mistake, I mean, they still hold some of the best players in the game, especially Snacks, and prove constantly that the evolution of tactics can make rosters more efficient and more powerful. I mean, they are one of the longest running rosters, and I think maybe NIP could learn really a thing or 2 off them if they wanted to continue with their 4 core. But I mean, yeah, just VP are one of the greatest and probably the new golden 5 pole roster really in this game. Some event highlights this year for VP, ESEA Season 16 Finals, ESL ESEA Dubai 2015, ESL won Cologne 2015, and PGL CSGO Championship Series Season 1 Finals. TSM, TQM, or question mark. They have $474,000 this year in prize money, and they're really the Danish team that had so much hype for most of the year. They appeared to be really a top 2 contender, but they fizzled out to a team that looked more like a top 5 team. And although they had some really amazing and decent results, poor performances at the majors and at some smaller tournaments forever plagued the roster from really being cemented in history as the greatest of all time. Problems such as the whole team simply not performing well at certain events, leading to them dropping out in either 8th place or last. Even the team having organization issues was also another problem, all the way to the team choking when they have such huge leads in big matches. And sometimes just not really even showing up, even though they had, a previously good run in a tournament. And a good example of that is DreamHack Cluj-Napoca, where NIP just basically destroyed them on some of their best maps, like Dust 2. However, they're still incredibly good. Device is, I'll say, touted as the best player for 2015. He has an overall rating of 1.16, and this does really show his ability in the sense that he only had 4 events with a rating below 1.0, and the lowest of that rating was 0.90. So this guy was consistent against some of the best teams in the world, showing some of the best ratings. And even when he performed, I would have to say, quote unquote, badly, he still did incredibly well. A 0.90 rating would be sometimes, at least the performance of an average top-level pro. And considering he's doing this against the best teams in the world is just amazing to think. And I understand some people are going to say, Guardian is the better player, but Guardian, he's mainly an AWPer, whereas Device is, kind of that hybrid player. So I really put Guardian as the best AWPer and Device is the best all-round player. But it's really the competition between those two players and Olofmeister. But there's still really hope for the TQM ex-TSM roster, that they can really bounce back. I think if they find an organization and figure out their internal issues, they can become a great team. After all, this year became the year that they finally won their first tournament. Previously, when they were on Dignitas for 2014, they'd never won ever a tournament. They always came top 4 or at least top 6, and now they really broke that this year. So maybe they can break into being, top 1 or top 2, because, they evolved into a winning team this year. And maybe perhaps they can even evolve to be the new contender to Fnatic, as, they've beaten Fnatic at least 4 out of the 6 times that they met during 2015. So, in terms of actually beating Fnatic, they have a very good record. They're almost like their kryptonite, they're winning basically 2/3 of the time. So hopefully this team can be top 3, at least in 2016, find their footing, and maybe even establish themselves as the top team for 2016. As far as event highlights, PGL CSGO Championship Series 1 Finals is one really great tournament. They won that. Face It 2015 Stage 1 and Stage 2 Finals. They won both of those. The first one was against NiP and the other one was against Cloud9. And Fragbite Masters Season 4 Finals, where they beat out Fnatic, as well as PGL CSGO Championship Series Kickoff Season Finals, which was their first ever tournament that they won. Now, the last team that I'm really going to talk about in depth is Na'Vi, which has won $365,000 in prize money this year. And really, they're the only promising and last hope of the CIS region. And they really did show that the CIS region still has talent, especially within CSGO. There's been a lot of doubts, especially with teams like Hellraisers at times breaking up and picking up people like Oscar outside of the scene and people like Schneider even. And with a lot of roster issues like Dosha leaving or Simple just having fights and not being in teams so long, it's Na'Vi who's really been the stable, consistent team this year for the CIS region. And most of their year's been quite promising. I mean, they had 5 tournament wins. One was an online league, though. So really 4 wins, and they had at least 16 top 4 finishes. So Na'Vi has really proven that the power of Guardian and the addition of Flamey has made them a reasonably successful team. They're at least top 5. Although they have been really behind the NIP in the eyes of most of the scene, they actually boast more prize money and more tournament wins. So they really established that they're the better team. And NIP is just trailing behind them. But, I mean, some people really thought that NIP was the better team, especially since they had a lot of top 2 kind of placings, whereas Na'Vi always came 4th or 3rd or 6th, and very rarely either won or came 2nd. But, I mean, they're still a very good team. They, however, haven't been able to establish any sort of dominance within the scene that is comparable to the Na'Vi of 1.6. So between 2010 and 2013, Na'Vi was an extremely good team. I think they won at least one major. They had incredibly good tournament runs. That's a whole nother video, but the huge problem within their CSGO roster right now is that their players purely don't have enough fragging power to really compete with the other rosters. I mean, the consistent and amazing AWPing of Guardian, who is considered by many as the world's best AWPer, and the addition of Flamey have boosted their results. They really need the talent of someone like Simple, Dosha, or World Edit to really kind of have some consistent placings and especially at times just, win 1v1s or win rounds against, the likes of Fnatic or Envious. Regardless, though, the team has shown they are at least tactically sound and are still within the meta of the game, and you can at least expect a top 5 finish for them, I think, within 2016. They're one of the rising teams, I think, within the scene. They just need to pick up some more talent. So as far as standout events for them, that would have to be ESL Pro League Finals, then you have Star Ladder, Star Series 13, and ESWC 2015. Now, the other 7 teams, which are teams that are ranked 6th to 12th, these teams, such as NIP, Titan, and G2, have proven that they can have some really standout or even remarkable performances. Also put Cloud9 in there, sorry. An example of this really is obviously Cloud9 during their summer run or the beginning of 2015, where NIP seemed to be at least a top 4 team, if not a top 3 team. With NIP being at least in 10 finals this year. However, the results at majors and in big tournaments have really established that these types of rosters either need more time to figure out what's working or what their strengths and weaknesses are or what kind of roster changes they need. So teams like NIP and Titan have proven that really being behind the meta of the game or not having decent or unpredictable setups sometimes can lead to your team losing too many CT rounds. It's especially really a bad thing considering that the meta is generally CT dominant, where other teams can have, streaks of 10 to 12 CT rounds in a row. If you have CT first and you're getting, the bad end of the stick, or you're giving them way too many T rounds, then when you're going onto your T side, you have a lot more pressure. And, some of these teams, especially Fnatic and TSM or TQM, have incredibly good CT sides that are just locked down that you can't get through, even get bomb plants sometimes. You're going to lose. So these rosters either have to change their way of thinking, or they have to use players more effectively, or put them in more unpredictable positions, or just do things that are just, I would have to say, within the meta of the game. Use the Tech 9, use the CZ, use the R8 pistol. Think about using shotguns more often. Put people like Freiburg and just make them think stupid, and just push smokes. And especially with Titan, they need to really think about their setups, because for the longest time they had really good T-side rounds. They really thought about the enemy and, thought about their setups and countered them at times on their T side. But when it came to CT side, they would get like 3 rounds and just lose the match, like 16-13, for instance, because their CT side was just so bad, or they had really bad positions, or players just purely weren't performing in those positions. So they need to stick people on sites more effectively. NIP also had this problem at times. But I mean, alas, NIP look like they're really on the verge of splitting, and Titan look lost in terms of leadership. So those are the things that they need to fix. C9 has proven that although they had a really great summer, it just fizzled into what looked like a period of great or even unbelievable form at the time. And that may never grace the roster again, especially with the loss of their in-game leader, Sean Gares. And it's just really confusing whether Nothing has the tactical mind or ability to think about the game and lead the team. Some people even say they should pick up a lurker, but I can't really think of any within NA that's like an incredibly good lurker that they could pick up. I think Hiko was their best lurker, and he's obviously on Team Liquid, and they had, him on the roster before, and he left, and there's just a whole political story behind that. But yeah, they might actually need to get some talent from Europe, or even just make Nothing their lurker and pick up an in-game leader. But that's incredibly hard considering that the talent in NA is kind of soaked up. G2, they're one of the rising teams as well, like Na'Vi, and they've proven they could at least almost make the finals of a major. Cluj-Napoca, they came third and fourth. They almost beat Envious in the final. They were about 2 rounds away from doing it, but they got cut out. So I think really due to the inexperience of the roster and some communication issues, as well as poor leadership decisions, they weren't really able to capitalize. More so, the narrative of this team is, a slow but steady rise to the top. I mean, this team went from being a joke team to being a decent team to now being a very serious team. And I think the prize money really reflects that. I mean, they're last place. They haven't even hit 100K. And I still feel really that this roster needs time. 6 months had shown that the team was able to at least be within the top 8 of a major, which can translate, to a top 4 finish and almost a final. So perhaps there's more top 4 finishes. I think now with Scream gone and also Dennis, the talents of AZ and Jacob can really pull through and show that maybe G2 can be a top 4 team next year. LG, or Luminosity Gaming, have established that South America, and more namely Brazil, has a lot of talent. I mean, with players such as Fallen and Cold Zero establishing incredible LAN performances. Cold Zero didn't ever have one LAN that he attended where he didn't get over a 1.0 rating, so the guy's incredibly good. Sometimes he's doing this against, top tier teams too, so he's really an amazing player. That, along with the team's just overall amazing adaptation to new tactics, to new map pools, and even their rosters, has proven that they're really worthy of the position of a top 8 team. I think their position on the list is actually spot on, but I still feel that the new Luminosity Gaming roster with Taco and I'm trying to remember the other guy, but anyway, I still feel that this roster needs some time to truly blossom and show their form that they did, at least at a consistent level, that they did at Faceit Stage 3 finals. So I think they've really shown a potential to drop into maybe the top 5 teams, but that would really require them finding some consistency, getting their map pool down, and just having a little bit more experience with the team. Now, lastly is the whole region of North America, excluding Cloud9, but a little bit of Cloud9 has these problems too, but I'll get into that. So they've proven once again that they're really disappointing. With not one team winning a tournament in Europe, including C9, and with many lackluster performances, somewhere between the 5th to 8th place finishes. Truly, I think the problem with these rosters, especially with CLG and Liquid, is that the talent has been sprawled across 2 teams rather than put in one powerful team that can make North America great. C9, I guess you could say, is the best team in terms of they have the most talent, but I still think Nitro, for instance, would be a better entry fragger than Freakazoid, and obviously Skadoodle's trapped in C9, so I would want probably him over someone like JDM. But I mean, if I had to take the talents from CLG and Liquid and put them into one roster, I mean, I'd have Hiko, Nitro, Cutler, Taric, and JDM all in one team. Cutler has some in-game leadership experience. Taric is an incredibly good fragger. Hiko is obviously probably the best lurker in NA. Nitro, an incredibly great entry fragger. He really showed that at least at ESL, ESEA Pro League finals. I think it was stage 2, where, you know, he had an amazing 25 kills in the first half against Fnatic on Cache. And obviously, I mean, Cutler's just an incredibly consistent player. He gets his 1 kill, he just does his job. Very good player. And then JDM, he's actually pretty good in terms of international AWPing. He has some really good LAN experience. He's not as powerful as someone like Skadoodle, but I mean, he could still have some really explosive rounds. So I think if they put them on one team and have like a big shuffle, I think that really might need to happen in order for them to compete with the Europeans. And more importantly, I'd have to say Cloud9. I will say this though, organizations like Team Liquid and particularly, I would have to say CLG, have invested in North America appropriately, as there's a huge fan base, a lot of prize money available. And I think that's really noted by Liquid and CLG being within the top 10 teams in terms of prize money. So that's the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. The list is here right now on screen. Give me any comments, feedback in the description, like the video, and please subscribe to my channel because, you know, I've been gathering a lot of data on this and hopefully you guys learnt a thing or two. Maybe you agree with the list. I think though that prize money is a better way of showing that teams are actually good because, you know, prize money is at least something factual. A lot of people make their lists based off, you know, I would have to say tournament placings and just average results. And that's factual too, but I think prize money really does show how consistent teams are and what kind of performances they actually get in terms of, you know, there's a value assigned to each placing. So yeah, see you guys next time.